Professor, we are pleased to meet you, and it's a great honor to host you at our university. Let me ask you the first question of our interview. Please tell us a bit about your occupation and experience.
Okay, I'm a professor of immunology. I have a lot of experience at teaching for the last maybe 35 years, teaching both science and medical students. I have also been involved in research, so I have a strong basis of both research and teaching. And I have been retired actually from University College in London since 2006, although I continue to do work in other universities in London. I'm a visiting professor at the University of Westminster, where I teach and do research, and I'm also a visiting professor in an American university in New Hampshire. And I enjoy, one of my greatest joys, I think, is teaching and education. I'm an educator. I've been doing so now for the last 30 years.
How have you been selected as the affiliated professor of our university?
Well, I think probably on the basis of experience. I first met Lali, who's your dean here at the medical faculty. I met her several years ago as part of Tempus Erasmus programs. And for the last 23 years, I have been involved in higher education in Georgia, in terms of both giving courses, in terms of delivering projects. So, for example, my last project was not immunology. We started with immunology, and now actually it's my last project was developing a laboratory that is a virtual laboratory, so that students can actually access practicals without actually having to be in a laboratory, which is a great advance in that it's less expensive. You don't have to buy reagents, and students can do this at any time that they want. So you give them the flexibility. They don't have to attend a class. They can do it late at night. And in fact, when I first started introducing the use of the internet in running my courses, I first found that students would try to get onto the internet to do studying between 12 o'clock at night and 2 o'clock in the morning. So this told me that actually what we need to do for students is we need to give them a flexibility of when they need to learn. They learn better when they want to learn. So that was, and having done all of this experience, and Lali knew what I was doing. She knew in terms of my help for the different universities in Georgia. She knew I was keen on helping education, and that's why I think that she chose me to come here.
Please talk about the intensive lecture course that you have delivered for the students of English language program of medicine.
Yes, I looked at the course. Nino Amaglabelli, who's in charge of the course, originally sent me a copy of the course, and we decided that the best way of me having an intensive course would be to choose a component of the course which was compact. And so this week I've been talking about the aspects of clinical immunology. So where things go wrong with the immune system and how you can cure it. So talking specifically about various types of autoimmune diseases, immunodeficiencies, and infection in defense and so on. So that's what we've been covering this week.
What additional knowledge and information did the students obtain from your course that they would not have learned from anywhere else?
Well, I think that I probably brought to the class, I brought a global teaching method. I think that one of the things about education, about medical education, is that it should not be taught just by subject. It needs to be, the students need to know very well how to integrate these things. And so when I give my lectures, and I gave my lectures this week, I was stimulating the students not only to think about the disease in terms of immunology, but about what other aspects of it, because they need to know about cell biology, they need to know about histology, they need to know about all of these things. And the problem is that it happens in all courses. The problem is that when students finish those individual courses, they do their examinations and they think, that's it, I don't need this anymore. And it's a logical thing to do. They've got their credits, they move on to something else. But the whole idea about medical education actually needs to be integration. And I understand that the new curriculum, I think, that is being applied for will have more of the integration, bringing together different subjects so that the student just doesn't try to think, oh, this patient has an immunological problem, but actually the symptoms are totally different from anything to do with immunology. So they should understand the whole thing, if you like, a global picture. And I've been trying to instill that in the students.
You conducted the so-called PBL session for students and the training for lecturers as well. In your opinion, how important are they for the development of the Faculty of Medicine?
Well, exactly what I've just said, really, about the fact that it's integrated. And the whole idea of a problem-based learning session is that a case is discussed, and the case is discussed as a person, a doctor, would face the patient coming into the clinic. So it's conducted in such a way that the students, it simulates how the doctor is going to see a patient and how they're going to diagnose a problem. So very important, and the way it works is that the students are given information. So like they see the patient looks pale, the patient may have breathing difficulties. So they start off with that, and then they think about the possibilities of what that patient has. So it brings in all the kind of things outside all the medicine together, and then they get another piece of paper, and they get more and more towards the idea of being able to diagnose. They put hypotheses as to what the patient has, and they eliminate them. So it's a global approach, and I think it's probably one of the best ways. You can't do it for all the students because you need to teach them some basic, and that's where I would suggest introducing this type of approach probably to the third or fourth years, not to the first or second years.
Please share your impressions of our university. What were the impressions of teaching?
First of all, I think that the people I met, the staff and the teachers were very friendly to me, and I could easily interact with them. So I think my impression was that there was a friendly group of people here, and that they were working to as much as they could to make things work here.
What would you like to be changed in the learning process?
In the learning process, I think the introduction, obviously, of more global teaching, more integrated teaching, in other words, introduction of more problem-based learning sessions, maybe later in the course. I probably would also suggest that perhaps when students arrive here, that they actually, because a lot of students arrive that have never really learnt how to learn, and so they don't know really how to learn. And so I think part of, if you like, of the first time that the students come here should be given towards, first of all, telling the students these are different ways of learning, okay? But also telling the students this is what we expect of you. So, for example, one of the things I noticed here, and it happens in lots of places, is that students come into the lecture, try to come into the lecture 20 minutes, half an hour after the lecture. And I would say that right from the beginning, if they're told, actually, when you attend lectures, you have to be on time. So those are the things, and you tell them when they start, this is what we expect of you. This is the way to do it. We expect you to turn up for various things. There are certain compulsory things that you must turn up for, like tutorials, like these problem-based tutorials. And in the other side, you as a university should tell them what the students should expect of you, what you're going to do for them, how you're going to follow them, And again, an idea that I have that is consistent with most medical schools is that from the time they arrive, they have a personal tutor. So that means there's somebody there, and the personal tutor is a lecturer or a lecturer, and they take on the responsibility of looking after, say, 5 students in the first year. And they're the first port of call to if there are problems. They know the students. If the students don't pass an examination, they will talk to them and try and work out what the problems are. So in that respect, the students feel in more of a community. They don't feel separated from the staff. And I think this is one way that I think you'll get better results.
You have been in contact with Georgia for so many years, and please share your impressions of our country.
And in fact, a lot of my friends say I'm Georgian now, because I came in 1996, and the first time, and I often give this story, when I arrived in an Aleutian, in a Russian plane. Georgian Airlines had that, I think 1 or 2 planes. So I arrived, and it was at the time when there was no electricity. So there was that bad time, when you had electricity maybe 2 hours a day or something. So we arrived, and we land at the airport, and as we arrive, the plane comes to a halt. And I look out of the window, and what do I see is all the people standing around the aircraft waiting to meet people who've just arrived with their dogs. I mean, it was amazing. So I arrived, and then on my way into the city, of course, in those days, all I could smell was paraffin, because that was what was being used for when I first went to TSU, they had no curtains on the windows, they had nothing in the way of computers. So part of what I was doing was helping TSU initially develop. So it was totally different. There was no industry here, there was no redevelopment, hardly any cranes, doing buildings. And gradually this has changed and become more and more, obviously, Tbilisi has become more and more, if you drive through it at night, it looks like any other, like a Western city. It now has all the things going on. There's much more you can get, many more things you can buy. The education systems are better, I think, than they were. For example, when I came here, there was 1 or 2 private universities. Now there's a huge number of private universities, and they're doing very well. In fact, I think they're doing better than the state schools now because they have more money. But I've worked with states. I've worked with Batumi, with Kutaisi, with Telavi. And these were all state universities that I helped to start with. They've all changed away from what I started out coming here. Now it's much, much better. So, and I feel like I feel like a Georgian. When I come back, I enjoy. I have a lot of friends here, so it's great. That's why I enjoy coming back.
Thank you very much for the interview. It was really interesting to have this conversation with you, and I hope that we will see you next semester at CIU.